Hi everyone, it's K-Red, and welcome back. We are going step by step, process by process, thought by thought through this Zentangle inspired art project. It's been great fun talking through with you, and today we're doing a couple of my favorite doodles on it. So, without any more delay, let's get started. Alrighty, back to my 01 pen, and let's go ahead and do a little bit of a hood on each of those. There's something on the paper that's keeping this ink from wanting to go down, or if it's the pen that's given out. See, it's the pen that's given out. So we're going to get rid of this 01. I'm going to grab a different one. I wanted to stick with a super fine pen to color in, just because my space, this area is so small. For that detail, I need a small pen. Okay. And for these, let's go ahead and do some dots here. I really sometimes like to do dots as my shading. I don't have the patience to do large areas. It can give a nice look. You're attempting to go up and down with the pen. You don't really want a dash at all. Ideally, it's with a fine pen, super soft up and down. And if you want it to be darker, you just do more. So, however light or dark you want it. So it can be darker down in the beginning and then go out lighter. We'll do that. All right. So we've been debating all along whether to leave these centers open. I think I'm going to leave them open. And let's start shading here, and we'll kind of work our way around. I'm going to go ahead and use a 6B to start. I have a couple of blending tools to use, and we'll see where we end up. So for these, I will definitely want there to be what will look like some on top and some on the bottom. So what I'm viewing as being on top, I am laying down outside that some pencil. And I'm laying it down pretty dark. It's hard to tell because it's such a dark section anyway. And then I'm pulling out. Definitely have lots to learn when it comes to shading. So often I will come in and do a rough shade and then come back in and clean up with an eraser. Tends to be the best way for me. So I can just make sure that the centers are clean. But I didn't go a little too crazy. What do you think? I'm okay with that. So what about these little guys? I think what I'd like to do is a little bit of shade as it goes in and a little bit of shade along the bottom. And I am using a much, much finer pencil so that it'll be a darker, harder to see. These pressure that I'm putting will definitely leave a mark on this paper, so that's something to think about. Because this is a harder lead, it's not going to blend as easily as that, but it will still blend some. I'm going to go with a much finer point, a much skinnier blending tool, and just smudge the line a little bit. On the bigger ones, I smudge more because there's just more white area to be able to absorb it. And then I'm going to come straight down on all of the stems. What do you think? Hey everyone. Well, this is actually a new day. I got called away last time again, but I'm happy to be back, happy to be working on this project, and feeling a little optimistic that we will finish it today. But you never know. We'll just have to see where we end up. So last time when I left you, I was doing a shade on these flowers here. I think the video actually cut off, but I did it the same way I did these. I put down the pencil first, and then I used the blending stick to blend it up. So that's where we were when the battery cut out and we ended last time. So let's see where we are today with brand new fresh eyes. So I haven't worked on this in a couple of days, so always interesting when you come back and you can look at everything with fresh eyes and see all kinds of new things. I've done some shading down in here on these flowers and on these, and it looks like on this one I laid it down, but my phone rang and called me away before I actually blended that one up. So that's how that one's blended up. So let's go ahead and take a look at these a little bit more. I don't know, but I believe I've mentioned about how I debated what to put in those. And I think what I want to do is I do want something in there, but I think what I'm going to do is a dots. Similar to this idea, or the checkerboard almost had the same kind of theory to it, that I'm going to go ahead. So the way I'm going to do the dots is I'm going to first do them open. If I leave them open to begin with, then I have all of my options. I can color them in. Now, often when I'm doing one of these pages, I don't really work very linear. So I'll draw, and then maybe I'll shade something, and then that'll spark some creativity, or it'll be like this is a different day, and I'll come back and have a different set of priorities or a different mindset moving forward. So that is often how I work, and I like those in there. I think what I'd like to do is start with coloring in every other and seeing how that looks. Oops. Okay, so much so every other on that one. So that kind of solved it for me. We're going to go ahead and we're going to color them all in. Often when I very first sit down to draw, and that's where I am today, my mind isn't really slowed down or calmed yet. That's the benefit I always get out of drawing, is it gives me the opportunity to slow down, to process things a little bit differently. And that sometimes when I'm not doing that well, I get little mistakes, but really they're not mistakes. I like having the solid dot in there, and in all likelihood there's a pretty reasonable chance I would have done that to begin with. So then the next thing that catches my eyes are these pretty flowers. I love these, but what I don't love is that my pencil went down into the bottom. when I was blending it up, or when I was laying down the pencil, one of the two, I got a little bit lower than I would have wanted. So I'm going to clean that up real quick. It just caught my eye. I am very scattered in my drawings. There is no right, there is no wrong, so I kind of work on whatever catches my eye. But if you could see, like on this one where it's not cleaned up, and those that are, it just makes it a little more, that's such a thin line, a little more obvious of where that shade should have been. So now, back to these flowers. Do I want anything below the circles? I could go under and do like a little half circle line under them. A lot of these circles are not filled in the middle. I do have a tendency when I'm doing them to miss the very middle or to leave a little white. So let's clean that up while I'm attempting to slow down my breathing, attempting to slow down my thoughts and my work process. There, I like that a lot. I think it kind of even blends in a lot with those circles and kind of has that cohesiveness. All right, so what's catching my eye next? And it's probably these. I like them there, but I don't like that it looks busy and there's nothing to weight it. There's no black, kind of like these dots did here, these circles did there. So let's go in and let's only color in a couple randomly. Now, if I decide to go back and do it every other, I have to be careful if I do too many of them that I'll be off. But I think that's what I want to do. Let's go in and do every other. So I did that one. I'll skip that one. And my problem with every other, though, I lied. I'm going to do every one. See how I kind of work it through. The problem I always have with this one, with doing every other, is that it always ends up being just one side of the stem has it and one side doesn't. And my problem with that is I'm just not a big a fan of that. So if when I drew these, I drew like 2 and then 1 and then 1 and then 2 and then 1 or something like that, where I had an odd amount on each side of the stem, then I would have been okay with doing it every other. But since when I drew this, I did every other, I end up with this issue. So it's going to take me just a minute to color these in. Let's go ahead and play a little bit of music and I will catch back up with you as soon as I'm done. This is a great beginning of the day drawing project. It gives me a chance to slow down, listen to some music myself, and get really into purposeful drawing, making each line matter. I recommend something like this, even if it's not on this project, just getting out a blank piece of paper and doing it. So there's always a little bit of a Where's Waldo kind of feel to something like this, since I didn't follow a great order, that maybe I missed one or two. We'll see as we move forward. I will, oops, a little eyelash. I can hopefully identify any others that I have missed. Appreciate you all being here for me with this project. It's been a lot of fun to kind of talk through what I'm going to draw next and where I'm going next. Not real sure if I like that harsh line that kind of gives you this like void here. So let's add just one more that goes kind of like that, just so that we have a little bit less of an obvious section, and that maybe that circle will just be planted in there. It's not one of my favorite circles that I've done, so having that up there hopefully just makes it stand out a little less and blend in a little bit more. So now we look at it. To me, this is up. Typically in my art, I don't usually like to have an up or a down, but in all truthfulness, I almost always do. It just seems to work out that way. So to me, this is up, but I will make a point to look at it in all different angles and see what catches my eye. I do still have a problem with the white space up here. A little bit with it right here. Thinking what I will do is let's continue this. Like that. And I'm using a different width pin, which may come back to haunt me. Let's see how to go. I think that was a little too far. So as I've been doing this project, I've been thinking about how I do these. I've been not real sure if you've heard me mention it before, but I don't pre-plan anything. When I very first started, probably close to 15 years now, learning about Zentangling, I'd never heard of it before, or really thinking of doodling as anything that maybe something other than a young schoolgirl would do. I copied whatever somebody else did. So I didn't trace what they did. I did my own drawings, but I did the designs, I did the doodles that they did, and I just did my best to duplicate what they had done. It was a really great way to learn. I'm not opposed to even doing that now. It lets you create something that you probably wouldn't, or no, I wouldn't have been able to create on my own. Gives me a lot of confidence early on and a lot of practice doing things. So from there, I then just started doing it, just random ones like this on my own without any pre-planning. But what I'm thinking about, and don't know when I'll actually do it, but if I do it, I'll let y'all know. Doing one that I do actually plan, that all the designs are purposeful and intended. So I like that kind of crossed over and they filled each other in. Let's go ahead and do that here as well. Whereas before I had it going off the paper, let's add just these here to make it look a little bit less of an open spot. I do caution myself the most, and you all, when you're doing these, that sometimes when you come back later, you can end up ruining your page because you have missed your original intention. You have kind of let go of your original thought process. So when you do it, just do it with a little bit of a grain of salt. Give yourself a little bit of grace, and just know to try not to overdo it. Okay, so there, that helped. I am tempted to put one more row through here, and I think I'm going to start it right about here. And let it kind of merge up. White space on your paper is extremely important. Finding that balance is something I am still working on. So you can easily over clutter a page. Hopefully I am not doing that, but it is something I am cautioning myself mentally against, to try to make sure that in my desire to have every hole covered and every spot done, to know that there is some wisdom in having white space too. So just be a little cautious of that. We'll watch together. If I cross over that line, then we'll know that it was there. But yeah, I think I'm okay with that. I like that it has that little bit of extra in it. A little bit of extra lace pattern. So, all right. So now I need to make a decision. Do I want to go ahead and go back to my shading, or do I want to do something in here? And I really do need to do something in here, I believe. I'm leaning towards something along the lines of a dot, but I don't think I'm going to do a dot. I think what I'm going to do is some lines. Auras, maybe? But what I'm working on are auras that don't touch. So not a true aura. Just following it with a line. It's going to give just a little bit more depth and movement. At least that's my hope and my plan. Then my thought right now is, do I want a circle in the middle of each one? Yet, but I am considering a circle in the middle of each one. Thinking of making the circle kind of like a yin and a yang, where it is half colored in and half not. Okay, what do you think? I do like that. I do like that it broke up that emptiness. I'm so tempted to put the circles in. Let's pop over to a pencil real quick. I think the circles that will fit inside it will be too small for the yin and the yang. But I do think I like the circles. So let's go away. I was going to go away from my 01 pen, but let's stick with the 01 pen. Let's see what we can do. Let's draw a circle, and then let's give it a hood where we only color the top half. Being very purposeful to only have a small hood on it. You know, if you've watched my other videos, you know me. Even when I plan to color something in, I almost always don't at first, so I can see what it looks like. Rather than the yin-yang, because the circles are so small, I just gave it a small hood. On this one, because this is solid in here, I get to actually even draw the circle, because I don't have to worry about it being seen, and I know I can have my dimensions right on my circle. Let's smooth this out. I don't know if I can zoom in so you can actually see it, but you could kind of see where my pin's picked up and put down. I don't really want that if I can avoid it, so I made it a little bit larger and hopefully smoothed it out a little. Glad I stuck with my little pin. I don't think this would have been possible if I switched to 05 like had been my original plan. All right, there. I like it. I'm glad I did that. I'm not going to fill them in all the way. I'm going to leave them just as they are. Unfortunately, everyone, we weren't quite able to finish today. We are just shy of that 30-minute mark, so we better call it for quits there. One more video though, and we will have finished this project. So make sure you like and subscribe. Come back next video and see how we finish up the last of the tweaks and the shading. We'll see you then. Stay safe. Bye-bye.